Hello, screenwriters and novel writers, and welcome to Writing for Screens. This episode is Writing My Novel Progress Report number 21, Spiraling in a Good Way. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Everything at Writing for Screens, a YouTube channel that I have set up in order to try to pass on some of the lessons and skills and tools and insights that I had to figure out for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies. Now, on my way out of the business, I am trying to leave behind some of these things so that those of you who are trying to figure it out for yourselves will have a little bit of stuff to work with. That's all there is. I can't give you the answer. There is no system. There is no right or wrong. Every artist must make their own path. You must figure out the kind of work you want to do, figure out the kind of skills you have and the ones you need to work on and the things that you can do and things you want to do, figure out where you are in the world and what the world is like. All of that stuff is going to be different for everyone. So therefore, I can't tell you what to do. All I can tell you is try these things. See if this works. These are things that worked for me. These are things I heard other people did. You try them out for yourself. The ones that help you, you keep. The ones that don't help you, you throw away and don't think about, because there is no right or wrong way to do this. Everybody has to figure it out for themselves. That is part of being creative. So let us quickly run through some of the things about this channel. The channel here is a screen capture of the main page of the channel as it stands right now. And if you scroll down there, you'll see at the bottom there are some playlists. Nice bright colors. Here you go. Brightly colored thumbnails with great big words that tell you what they are about. These first three playlists have about 50 short videos, each one about 10 minutes long, on a specific creative topic. Flashbacks, character, dialogue, all that stuff. I have tried to break it down into things that you might try for yourself, things that you can think about, things that are ways that I know have worked for me or other people. That is the main value of this channel. These 50 little lessons. They are there 24/7. They are there for free. Please watch them. Because, honestly, everything else I'm going to say is probably said better there. That's just the way it is. I worked long and hard to get those things down into simple skills and tools that you can try for yourself, because everyone has to figure out their own toolbox that works for them. So, when I am not doing that, every Wednesday at 1 p.m., if I can make it, I do a live stream on a different topic. Today's topic is about writing the novel that I have taken up in my retirement, something I've been working on since the 1990s, and finally am getting myself to finish it, to learn how to write a novel. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got 2 or 3 things I want to tell you about that I've discovered or seen in the past week or so, and then I will open it up to questions. But in the meanwhile, let me say some quick hellos to Good Morning Hasko, not the pirate. And you are indeed first. Hello to Australia from Donna. Hey, Burgundy, good to see you. Hi, Doreen. Yes, hit the like. That helps me. Hi, Feng. Okay, good. So let us get into it, because this is some interesting stuff I discovered. One of the things I want to talk about is this what I've titled Spiraling in a Good Way. Because in the common parlance of the moment, if somebody is spiraling, they are generally going down. They are spiraling towards the drain. They are going to crash and burn. Spiraling is not a good thing. However, creatively, and you will know that I have previously talked about this concept of a spiral process, which I've even done a whole video about, which means you just keep coming around. You don't have to march through it and get it all right and solve it and get it done. Sometimes you just keep going through it, and you do a little bit here and a little bit there, and slowly but surely you find that you are building something solid and good. And what I'm finding is this truly, truly, truly works. At least for me, it's really a lifesaver. Because even though I am retired, even though I have been professional and understand myself and my writing pretty well, I've really been learning a lot about myself by trying to write a novel, because it's different, and it was the first goal I had way back when I was a kid. I wanted to write books. Books are hard. The books are hard. And so what I'm discovering is it's taking me a lot longer than I thought it would, that I thought it should. And this is an interesting insight, because what I am recognizing, and I've talked about this before, is that simply what's wrong here is my expectation that I can move faster, that I can, I could just do that 8 hours a day now. I can't. I don't do that well. First of all, I got a lot of stuff going on in life that requires my time and attention. But also, I simply need to work in small bits. When I come back to it, I find it's getting better every time. But what I've been doing is going through it scene by scene. Sometimes I'll just clean up the language a little. But what I did about a month ago was I went through every scene and I wrote out some notes on what it is that I think is missing, or what the goal is of a certain scene, or just trying to give myself some advice, to critique my work and give constructive notes, which I put here. I'm gonna show you. Let me just open this up here. So I'm going to share my screen. Uh-oh, I froze. There we go. I unfroze. Okay. Can you all hear me, by the way? Just because it said audio system muted for a second. Anyway, so this is the manuscript in Scrivener, which is the software I'm working. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger for you. Okay. So the point is, in this text, I've got this little section here on the side where I can write notes. And so as I am writing, what I did is I went through and I thought, okay, this is the notes section. And let me see, can I? Yeah, I'm gonna move this over so you can see. So this is a little summary about what's happening in the scene. But sometimes I'll have, this one doesn't have it. Let's see. Yeah, like here I'll have questions. Questions for myself, things like that. So what I've been doing now is going through and trying to clear out that section so that there's whatever the note was, I wrote it into the text, because if it's not in the text, it really doesn't exist. No matter how brilliant your plan, no matter how great your vision, if you don't actually write it in the words, it's not in the book. And so what I've been doing is going through the book and saying, first of all, I just have to make sure everything's in there. Because no matter how, there's so much in a book, there's so many scenes, and each scene has so much complexity, at least the way I think about it, that I've just simply been having a hard time getting it all in. It seemed thin, it seemed skimpy and shallow. So now I'm going back through it and trying to make it, to go through and say, okay, what does this scene really need to work on? So I go through it, and so that took a month or so, I guess, to go through every scene. I also, I should show you this. This is a thing I did. At a certain point, if you see over here on the left, here, you can't really see it. I keep centering it no matter what I do. Over on the left-hand side, there's this bar where you've got these, this is a list of each scene. Each scene is its own document. I numbered them. So I just thought, I need to know, like, for some reason, it just felt like it helped me. So I just spent an hour going through and numbering all these things. So there's 43 in the first part. There's 24 in the second part. There's 33 in the third part, and there's 27s. So, all in all, we got over 100 of these scenes. And what I've been doing is just saying, like, what is this scene about? What am I missing here? Why isn't it working? And you see, and I'll write all these notes. Let me see if I can get here there. So this is describing what's happening in the scene in that blue stuff, and then asking myself some questions in the pink stuff. And wait a second. Sorry about that. Sometimes my cursor just goes crazy. There we go. Okay. Hi guys. So what I did was I just spiraled through and I made the notes, and now I'm going through and I'm applying the notes to the text. And truly, it seems like this is such small stuff, like if I get a paragraph which just describes, taking like I just was working on here. Here, this morning, actually. These two paragraphs. What happens is in the story, this guy has been in love with his best friend's wife at this point, and so he's not seen them for a year or so. He's basically run away. He gets the news from somebody that his old friend has vanished, possibly died, possibly taken his own life. So I needed to describe him going immediately to see his best friend's wife. And so I wrote these. I had to write, like, what's it like? Like, how does he get when he gets there? Because the original sentence was simply like, I went right to the gallery where she works. And then I thought, no, I need to describe that more detailed. So I wrote, I didn't even really think about it. From Felix's apartment, I took a taxi to the Tinker Gallery. And then I thought, what's that taxi ride like? So I described it. It was dark early and rush hour had begun. This is just this morning. So this is not proper writing yet. But I just wanted to get down impressions and images. But never did I consider not going there. I will eventually make that a more solid phrase, but I wanted to get the concept down on the paper that he's anxious to see her, and he's not thinking about the possible problems, the possible like what's he going to do when he just wants to go. So I just described those thoughts of his. So that's the sort of thing I've been doing, is like saying, okay, what's this moment? Yes, he's rushing to the gallery to talk to Billy, but what's it like? What's it like? He's in a taxi. It's rush hour. Like, what time of day is it? Where? What's, all that stuff. Just trying to get it in there. Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about, is just what I've been discovering is it's getting easier every day I do just those one scene, one couple of paragraphs. It means the next time I click into the flow of it and I find the new details of the next thing easier than 6 months ago, when it was still frightening. And I think that one of the things about this is that I'm getting used to the idea that this is, in fact, how I write comfortably. A little bit at a time, taking a single specific thing and focusing on making it just a little better. And by better, I mean more narrative, more descriptive language, more dramatic, all those things that I think will make this better. There's different betters in different scenes, but the main point is I'm not fixing it all at once. I am saying this is going to take much longer than I hoped. If I could do this all day, every day, it would be done in maybe a few months. I don't think so. I think it's going to be next summer, maybe. But every time I do it, I like it more. Every time I get some scene to go from vague and generic or not emotionally interesting to a dramatic moment, I like it more. and that makes me want to do more to support that stuff I do like. It's one of the things I've talked about before. Focus on the things that are good when you are rewriting. Say, wow, I got this paragraph where he talks about being in a taxi cab, and it's sort of, exotic and interesting, and that makes me want to do the rest of the book to make that paragraph work. So that's it. So the thing I discovered about this essentially is, and the way I wanted to put it is, writing the book teaches you how to write the book. If you don't spend your time trying to impose some system or plan or goal that you've just bringing to it and saying, this is how it ought to be, or this is how I wish it were, but to actually say, like, how is this working? What's making it better? What's comfortable? What's making me the next morning, instead of going, oh, I don't want to write, say, ooh, let me get another paragraph here. And then I get busy and other things, and maybe one paragraph is all I get for the day. But the next day, I like it more and I want to go back to it more. And so this process is teaching me how, in fact, to write it. If I had to write on a deadline, I would have to do it differently. But for the moment, this is, to me, a valuable lesson, which you wouldn't think I would need after decades of professional writing. But I don't know. There's something about the language of fiction that is making me feel less confident and more like a beginner. And therefore, what I'm trying to share with you guys, because the point of this is not to talk about me, honestly, it's to talk about things that you can use. And this is really one, which is writing the book or the project, the game, the whatever, the graphic novel, the script, teaches you how to do it. You can't have a plan in advance that you just say, I'm going to do this according to this system, this vision of how it should work. Maybe that will work, and if it does, great, do that. But if it doesn't, let the writing process teach you how to do it. In other words, don't think I have to figure it out before I write it. Figure out as you write it. And that will mean wrong turns and blind alleys and all sorts of things. But at least if you keep letting yourself learn as you go, you will get stronger and better all along. I'm going to quickly go through some got a whole bunch of comments here, so I thought I should say hello. Do you use GPT for your novel? No, absolutely not. And the reason I don't is because, frankly, I just feel like you're outsourcing. you are taking the one valuable thing that you are doing when you create, which is you creating. That's the only thing you're doing there. And you're saying, oh, I'm gonna have something else do it. I wouldn't, by the way, I wouldn't say use like I've said, a book, or suppose there was a Robert McKee book, How to Write a Novel. And it said, do this and this and follow these prompts like Save the Cat does. Or a lot of writing systems now that are not AI, but they are some teacher or professor or other writer who said, if you do these things, it'll work. Those bother me just as much. The idea that you could follow a formula, paint by numbers, as it were, and you're missing some of the richness that only you can bring. So I do not personally see a value in ChatGPT, even if it brings you things you wouldn't have thought of. Things you wouldn't have thought of shouldn't be in your book. That's my thought. Even if that means they're not as good. Even if it means that your work is more limited, because we are all limited, and that is life. That is art. Okay. Psychology has given spirals a bad name. Well, I am here to reclaim the spiral. Hey, Gene, good to see you. So glad you're here. Hi, A Link, with your wonderful hands. What were my expectations? Something like finishing the novel in 4 months. Okay. I wish. Let's remember, I started this novel in 1996. So finishing the novel in 20, 30 years was my goal. But no, realistically, I started it up again around this time last year, I believe it was. I think it's been about a year now of really focusing most of my creative energy on this project. And I was kind of hoping to have the draft done by this Christmas, by this New Year, by this winter. I'm not going to have that, but I am making progress. So great. It's not like anyone cares. I mean, obviously, it's nice that you guys say I want to read it and stuff, but it's not like I signed a contract and have to hand it in on time or something. It's going as fast as it can go. But my expectation was that I would have a good rough draft or a good first draft, a readable draft by this holiday season. That is not going to happen. We'll see if I can get it done by the summer. I think so. Yes, meaning I asked, could you hear me? Because I got this weird notification. I do not. I would love to be president. I don't think it's a good plan to try and be. Why do I seem younger today? I got my hair cut. Maybe that helps. I don't know. Should we number the scenes like you do in our screenplays? Well, no. Numbering the scenes is a production value. There's no good part of numbering scenes for the read. When you read a thing, to see numbers on the scenes is just annoying. The purpose of numbering scenes is so that people can do the various things like say, which scenes are set in the supermarket? It's 15, 20, and 43. So then they can pull those pages for that day's locations kind of thing. That's the only reason to number scenes. I'm numbering them because in my notes, I was starting to say things like, oh, in the scene where they go to the museum. And I thought, maybe I should just call it 4.4, or whatever. I don't know why the numbering thing felt like it would help me in this process. The numbering, by the way, when they are finished, it's a readable thing, there will not be chapter numbers. So there you go. Maybe you should hire a tech assistant for the live stream. Probably so, but I would hate to have them around and I would not want to pay them. So that's a problem. Hi, Ziggy. I like it when you write live. What's it like? I will tell you something. I like it when I write live too. And when I finish this novel, if I do the one I intend to do after it, which is much, much more ambitious, I will actually go back to the live writing thing. Because right now I'm not doing live writing. I'm summarizing what I did while I was writing. But I'm actually, if I get around to it, this is a year in the future or more. I was thinking of doing like I did the step-by-step project, but not every second of the writing. I'll go live when I feel like it to write that novel. Anyway, hi, Susan Bibot. Is that how you pronounce it? I find the lack of constraints on novels to be intimidating. Me too. A sub 120-page screenplay that has to hit certain beats is less terrifying. I agree with Susan on this. This is actually one of the biggest things which I have been struggling with since I started to focus on this about a year ago, because I used to feel that same intimidated, there's too many possibilities, I don't know what I should do feeling about scripts. And then eventually I did get down to, look, it's 120 pages, it's only 60 scenes, and I know I have to do these 3 acts and I have to do these beats because that's how predictable commercial movies go. So yes, that made it easier. And after a while I got comfortable within that. Now that I'm going back to novels and the possibilities are so endless, it intimidated the hell out of me and still does. But what I will tell you is, let me see if I can find this. I got to organize my stuff here. I need a writing assistant for my live stream mechanics here. Here it is. Writing is making choices. That is what I am realizing helps with the intimidation. What I've discovered is while a book can be anything, this book can't be. Because, for instance, it's first person. So all of the tricks that I might be able to do in third person, I'm not doing. So I made a choice. I cut out a whole lot of possibilities. Then I started to think about the particular voice of this narrator, because it's first person, so it's this character. So all of a sudden, a lot of other things become important, because he's not going to, he comes from a certain life and a certain world, and he's channeling a bunch of ideas that I'm trying to get into the story. So therefore, he has a certain voice, and that is narrowing the possibilities. And then once I have the outline, I'm like, well, that narrows the possibilities too, because these are the scenes. This is it. I'm not adding any. I'm probably not adding any more scenes. I've got a lot of scenes yet to fill out. So what happens is, even though it is tremendously intimidating to think about the infinite possibilities of writing fiction, I've actually begun to get comfortable with having made choices which remove options. And that lets you play within the smaller, healthier field of narrowed possibilities of a particular work. And that is the key. Making choices and then working within those limits. That is how you stop from spiraling in the bad way. Okay. The book is writing me for the moment. Oh, good. Jean's working on a book too. I am a good editor. Maybe I will never finish this damn thing, but it will be my gateway to heaven. Yes, that is a legitimate path too. Who knows if any of us will finish anything we're doing, but we're going to try. Okay, so let me talk a little bit more about the things that I discovered, because the other thing I discovered, and this is personal to me, I don't know how many of you have this problem, but I accumulate too much stuff in a project. Too many ambitions, but also too many notes. Like I'll write, like for every character, I have made notes. I've said, what are they like? What do they look like? What is their history? What is their goals in the story? I've done all this analyzing and thinking. Those notes, as I've said, if I don't get them into the words, the scenes, the moments, they don't exist. I mean, I know that they influence the things I'm doing, but what I've discovered is I'm beginning to feel like there's something wrong because the stuff in the notes is hanging over my head, when what I really need to focus on is the text itself. So what I realized for me at this moment is, at some point I need to put away what I call the process work, the notes, the outline, the theoretical, the tangential, all those things I've written that are not in the book itself. I need to now make sure that whatever I am doing, it's in the text. And so that's what I'm doing. Like this pass is going through, as I showed you, there's notes in my little side column that I've written about things that need to be added to a scene. I'm going through and I'm adding to the scene and deleting. I want that notes thing to be mostly clear so that I can just get the book to work. Because if I get my notes beautifully organized, no one's ever going to see them. So I personally have had to start saying, I need to get rid of all that research and stuff. I mean, it's there if I need it. I'm not throwing it away. I keep my notes here. I'll show you. As I work here at the top of my outline, I have my work notes. So you can see here, like these are the November notes. So like today, like, I was thinking about these different characters, these secondary characters. And I wrote all these notes. Well, I'm not going to throw away all these notes. I was going to, what I had to do was think, okay, I know at a certain point, this secondary character meets and begins to romance or date what I call a tertiary character, a third, like she's a person who's working in the home of one of the main character's parents. And we need this because we need a bit of gossip to be passed along. So I said, oh, well, if this guy is dating one of the servants, they'll know the gossip from the house, and that's how he'll find out that, in fact, the guy who he used to be best friends with has vanished. And so I thought, okay, so this art gallery owner is dating one of the servants in this rich people's penthouse. And I thought, so I just made a note, like he's dating one of the servants in that house. Now I thought, okay, I have to give this person a name. I have to give them a personality. And then I thought, okay, the people who own this penthouse, the character's parents, are a very specific type of immigrant to New York City at the turn of the 20th century, in the early 1900s. And what happened in New York in those days was that there were waves of immigration from different places, Ireland, Italy. There were two waves of Jewish immigration. One was the German Jewish, Central European Jewish, who came earlier than the Russian, Polish, Eastern European Jews who came about a decade later. There were different immigration laws and different situations in Europe. And the first wave was successful by the time the teeming masses of second wave came in. Her family is in the first wave. So I thought, what kind of servants would they have? Would they have Jewish servants? Would they have German servants because they were originally from Germany? Would they have Black servants? Would they have, Irish? Because those clusters of immigration in New York were very distinct at that time. And it made a difference, and it makes a difference to the persona of the characters. So what I had to do was go through and think, okay, I need this character to be quickly graspable. I need them to be acceptable to the people who run the house. I need them to be acceptable to the guy who's dating. It was a lot of thinking to come up with the fact that it's the cook in their kitchen, and she's a middle-aged, also German Jewish immigrant, but she's not, in fact, she may not be Jewish, but they are. But they wanted someone who reminded them of the old world. Anyway, the point is, that was a day's work. That was a day's work just to come up with this character's name and persona. And that bit of spiraling left me with a lot of notes. Now what I have to do is get rid of those, put them in an archive, put them in a place where I'm not looking at them and thinking, oh, that's satisfying. I did a lot of good work there because it's not in the book yet. Then I had to go through and describe. Let me see if I can find the paragraph where I did that. Yeah, here. Hold on. So then I had to create this Hilda the Gruensberg's cook, and I'm still not sure. It says that she's there for her birthday dinner. This art gallery owner has fallen in life and become a waiter in a fancy restaurant. This woman, this cook, is going to see him as a waiter, and her heart goes out to him because she knew him as a well-off gallery owner, and now he's lost his gallery and he's working as a waiter. And I write, her shock and dismay at seeing him with his waiter's notebook and pencil was so overwhelming that he genuinely believed he knew she genuinely believed he deserved better. Love is often made of such small things. They were a sweet, delicate couple, both middle-aged exiles, etc., etc. The point is, now that's in the text. So that part of the spiral has been accomplished, and I can take those notes and put them out of sight and only work on making those awkward sentences that I wrote earlier this week more entertaining and flowing better and focused better and sharper. A lot of work yet to be done, but at least it's in the text. And that is the important lesson that I wanted to get. And the last lesson I wanted to give you before I answer questions and talk about comments is this. I still keep coming back to, and the reason I put these on cards is I'm hoping that they will be useful to you. So I'm putting them up there in words that are not about me, but hopefully a tip that can be helpful to you. the thing that I keep finding saves the day every time I am trying to write is finding the scene. I talked about it recently, the concept of deliver the moment, finding the scene. And I got a little example of it here. I have a scene where the narrator has discovered a bunch of things about other characters and is now facing a difficult choice. And he comes home, it's 2:00 in the morning, and I wanted him to discuss this with one of the people he shares his apartment with. But at the same time, he also had to later discuss it with the woman he's living with in the apartment. They're two separate people. And I had to describe, like, okay, so he gets home at 2:00 in the morning. Good. So now there's the moment. It's a scene. He's coming home. He's had this weird night of revelations. He comes home and he finds his apartment mate, this guy, Ruben. He's an artist. He's gay and he's very elegant, and has been advising the narrator on how to deal with a homophobic enemy. And so Tom, the narrator, talks to this guy, Ruben, in their living room in the dark. And I haven't quite figured out, Ruben lives a sort of secretive nightlife. So I wanted that feeling of that he's still up. He just got home himself kind of thing. And then having talked, Tom goes to talk, he gets into bed with Edith, his girlfriend, and they have another brief discussion. And then I needed to have him think about what he was going to do with all this advice that he had just gotten. And I thought, okay, maybe the next morning he wakes up and he takes a walk, goes to a park. Like, I was trying to imagine the scene where he makes the decision, where he considers the advice and makes the decision. So that's the plot point. A character has to make a decision about which path to take in the face of a threat. That's the scene. And I thought, well, here's the thing. I've got like 4 other scenes where people take walks and make decisions or have discussions. It's like taking walks is a big part of this story. And I just didn't want another one of those. It just felt wrong. And I thought, well, wait a second. We had this moment. He got into bed. He briefly talked to his girlfriend. She gave him a piece of advice that he really doesn't want to hear. That's good advice. And I thought, that's the moment. He's lying there in bed. She goes back to sleep. He's lying and he can't fall asleep. So now, instead of taking a walk, which is just too many scenes of taking a walk, I said, okay, here's the moment. This guy who's been living with this girlfriend who's not his real love, and sharing this apartment with all these other people, is suddenly realizing that he can't stay there anymore, that he's going to have to leave this life. And the idea of doing that in the bed at 3 a.m, listening to all the other people in the building, sleeping and using their sinks and all the other things that happens when you're in an apartment and you can kind of hear through the walls. That feeling of being awake when everyone else, when the world has wants you to be asleep, but you can't because you've got this anxious problem. I thought, that's the scene. And I thought, that choice will work. And that's how you write, is that you find the specific moment that works for the story. Could have been taking a walk, could have been sitting up all night talking to his girlfriend, but you sort of sort through the possibilities, but eventually you have to come down to one specific moment that you feel works. And that's the most important thing. Finding the scene, making the choice of how you are going to do this thing that you know you want to do. Okay. Glenn's fan club quotes somebody who says, write a white character and just change the skin tone or make it gay something. Doesn't matter. Audiences are dumb. This sells. What do you think about this UK novel guru statement? Well, obviously it's bad. I feel like you guys give me, like clickbait quotes. Like you tell me about other bad teachers. It's like, obviously that's bad. I'm not going to say that's good. That sucks. It's crappy advice. It's cynical and shallow and not good writing. Okay. David Wright says, once I've gotten to the story beats level, that's what we're talking about, the scene by scene. I literally dream the scenes I need to produce in the morning between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. while I'm half asleep. It's very weird, but it works for me. Not at all. There's the famous TV writer named Tom Fontana. He did Northern Exposure. He worked on Homicide, Life on the Streets. He doesn't consciously work, but he said, like in the middle of the night, but he says he always works literally when he gets out of bed. He like staggers right to his work desk because there's something about the freshly woken brain that for him works the best. I need some coffee, I need some time, and then I sit down. But if it works for you, that's great. The important thing is to say, I literally imagine/dream the scenes I need to produce. That's it. Whether you do it in your bed, I sit here and dream the scenes. I do it on paper because that helps me. I would suggest you all do that too. In other words, I will, as I showed you, here we go, make notes. And those notes will be like Reuben telling about the Whitliffes, just asking questions, making notes. Why is he doing this? What's the consequence of not doing that? What's so terrible about that? And then I figure out he needs to restate the blackmail, etc., etc. Okay. I realized I had put the same information into two different scenes, so I think I had to move one. So these are the kind of things, that's where I imagine and dream. I try and write it down because it just slips away from me so fast. Things come into my head, they'll go out. And I don't mean I have a bad memory. I have an excellent memory, less and less so as I grow older. But I have a good memory, but it doesn't matter because the creative transformation of that dream, that imagination into words on a page, that's an important habit to get into, I feel. Okay. Fung says, yes, I always find the inciting incident must be on page 15 super dumb. Yeah, of course it's dumb. I don't believe every scriptwriter would really just jump to page 15 like the UCLA professor said. Yeah, no, anybody who says everything, this should happen on page X or something, that's, you've heard me before say, advice like that is not good. If you want something to cling to, if you need for this particular project you're working on, you need a framework that it's artificial to hang your steps on, take it. Sure, it doesn't hurt. But if you're finding yourself saying, oh, I have to cut 3 scenes because this thing doesn't happen on page 15, forget it. The 15 doesn't matter. Does not matter. As Burgundy says, it is an ignorant statement because it can matter depending on what your story is about and the environment the characters evolve in. It is their identity after all. Absolutely. In a non-political sense, a person, their identity is formed by many things, including where they come from, who raised them, what their circumstances in society are. All of those things will matter. Like I've been saying, I wanted to think about what kind of servant this particular type of successful immigrant in the early parts of the 20th century would have. But I also needed them to become a good date for another character. So I needed them to match in their cultural backgrounds, even though they are different in many ways. That all matters. It all matters. I believe that every character should have a depth and richness in your life, even if in this case, this is a person we're only going to see in 3 scenes of my 130, and only in a paragraph or 2 in those. But it doesn't matter. She has to come alive in my mind. She has to be real. Okay. Quaron, I assume the father, says jokingly that scripts either take 3 months or 30 years to be written. So you're right on track to confirm that with the novels as well. Yeah, I would actually say that's a great quote. Some things come really fast and some things take forever, and a lot of them you give up on if you don't have faith in that, that some things just take that long. Live writing. Oh, thank you. That's great. I really appreciate it. Yes, live writing sessions for phenomenal virtual workspace. If you are willing to go through that again, I'm certain it would be much appreciated by everyone here. Yes, I really would be. I just don't want to do it for another script because who needs that? But to actually do something with something that I don't know what I'm doing about, I thought that could be fun. Too much stuff, too many notes. How can that be? But seriously, I hear you. Thank you, Link. Link. Yeah, it's not that it's too much stuff on the work surface. It's not too much stuff to exist. What I'm saying is I've recognized that if I clutter my work surface, which in some ways you think, oh, clutter. I mean, look, I'm a clutteraholic. I love the density of stuff. But for actual work, I am trying to learn that clearing the work surface, clearing the desktop, clearing the document to what actually is going to be the thing, and then working on that is helpful to me. Sometimes you want to just lay a lot of stuff around because it sparks thoughts, but at a certain point for me, I need to clear the decks and focus on the text itself. How do you know if the choices you've made to creatively constrain yourself are in fact castrating you? You know, because it feels bad. That's the answer. And I really mean that. If you find that the choices you are making are just driving you miserable and hate, and you're finding yourself creatively stalled, then that's a bad choice. But what I'm finding is that by narrowing the area you work in, the narrow place becomes much more fun and rich and practical. You begin to say, oh yeah, now I see how I can do it, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. So if you're overwhelmed, narrow. If you find yourself stuck in the narrow spot and miserable, you've narrowed badly. Try to narrow again somewhere else. That's the way I would answer that. Imogen Jimena Nieves, it's very nice to meet you. I don't know. Have we spoken before? I have a lot of info on my characters to pull from, but I'm certainly not using all the info in the book. My process can take a lot of time, so I'm trying to find more conservative ways. Yes, me too. The thing I would say is, does your process feel increasingly fun? That's so many of these creative answers are you liking it? Are you having fun? Are you beginning to like the thing you are doing and thinking, oh, that's what I had in mind. Even if it's not what you thought it was going to be, it's feeling good. That's the key. Glenn, are you worried about your idea for a novel being plagiarized? No, I am not. For one thing, I have this vast recorded record of my plans. So if somebody else suddenly started writing something now and it was stolen from what I'm doing, I would have a legal case. I would be able to prove my authorship. But second of all, you can't copyright an idea. Like my story, while fabulous, is not copyrightable until I've written it down in some form. The form is copyrightable. An idea, even a detailed story, is not necessarily owned. So therefore, I don't worry that. I'm really pissed about the title, though. The title, Now Every Moment, I love it. I want to use it. I just discovered that Liane Moriarty's new novel is called Here One Moment. And I'm a little afraid it's going to be too close, and publishers are going to be like, oh, you can't do that. Because damn it, I'm sticking to my title. So, but titles aren't copyrightable either. Okay. Maybe you invented radical expressionism. Watching you write and talk about your novel invokes the best novel you could write in our minds. No need to write it anymore. Yes, that is the danger. The danger is I'm going to promise all this stuff, and then the thing is not going to be that, because nothing ever is what we imagine. It's always the concrete. What I have to figure is those of you who are watching now will enjoy seeing how concrete and different it has gotten from what you imagined. And everyone else, they don't care. David Wright says, you might try loading your notes and book chapters into a LLM like Claude and have it tell you if the intent of the notes is in the text. No, I won't. I won't do that. And the reason is I have to figure that out. If an AI, if Claude can write without me, I don't want to write. It's my work. I want to make the decisions. And even if, because let's take it away from AI. Let's say I could show it to my favorite novelists. So suppose John Updike or Graham Greene was alive right now, and I had the opportunity to say, hey, would you read this and tell me what you think? That would be like what you're talking about, like say taking the notes, say like read the notes, see the thing, tell me what you think. If I could drag Graham Greene away from his work to do that for me, it still would be a problem because, well, yes, it might be nice to get advice. I'm not done advising myself. I'm not done figuring out what I want. I don't want someone else telling me another way to do it. I need to think of the ways I can think of doing it and then work within that and make my choices within that. I am particularly resistant to being advised. I don't like it. I like to get it the way I like it. Then I show it to people and I see if it's not doing what I thought, I have to decide maybe I just screwed up or maybe there's small changes I can make, but I very rarely make big changes after I've got it to where I want it. Haskell, go write something. Thank you, Burgundy. Okay, so we're heading down towards stopping. That research is also helpful because it puts you in the mindset of what would be common knowledge of that time, yes, and region, which has otherwise been lost from the collective consciousness, I guess. Yes, absolutely. That is what I am finding about research. But what I'm discovering is sometimes I have to forget the research and create out of my own world and my own situation and find the textures, whether or not they're accurate. And then after I have that scene, like I said, this concept of finding the scene, like now that I have this idea of this scene, then I might do some there's a moment right after this, he goes down to Chelsea to the gallery to find the woman he hasn't spoken to in a year because her husband has disappeared. She takes him to a restaurant. There happens to be in Chelsea a restaurant that was opened in 1930 called El Quijote. And I went there as a child. And I made an impression on me. So I'm going to have them go to that restaurant. So I did some research and I found pictures of it from the 1930s and stuff. So I can describe it because it's just happens to be a really cool place. It's in the Hotel Chelsea in New York. And so in that case, once I knew that I wanted her to go to a restaurant, and then I thought, El Quijote was there. Then I did some research and I got the details on the kind of mural they had on the walls and the stuff like that. So yes, the research and creativity are a complex web of going back and forth between your created reality and the incredible luxury of finding real historical details. Your advice yes, absolutely. Aren't we all procrastinating, Burgundy says. I know I am. Yes, that's what I'm here for, to help you procrastinate. Okay. Haskell says, good thoughts need time to ferment, to develop the flavor of a good story. That's true. That's not procrastinating, but I do appreciate it behind the times. Did I? Yeah, Haskell. This is all about Haskell saying maybe because I've talked about the novel, I don't need to write it. And a little bit of me kind of wishes that were true. Okay. Hello, Joy. I also play scenes in my head at night and find executing them in the morning can work well. Yes, exactly. There's so many ways to do this. The one thing I would say is check. Do you find yourself ending up with more words on the page at the end of your process, whatever it is, than if you did it some other way, then your process is good. If you are finding yourself feeling good but not writing anything, that's troublesome. If you're finding yourself feeling bad but writing things, that's troublesome. Sometimes you have to feel a little bad, but it's not the end of the world. Is it crazy to have a day job and wake up at 5 a.m. and write to 8:30 a.m., then go to work? Then after work, write from 7 to 8:30 before having dinner. Is it crazy? Not if you could do it. I personally can't do the evening stuff, but when I had a day job, I often woke up at 5 or even 4 in order to write a little bit in the morning. That was just the best time for me because I can't do stuff at night. My brain just does not work. Okay. As Joy says, if that works for you, Robert Freeman, it's not crazy. It's completely reasonable as long as the life you live allows you to do it. It's great. Are you excited that Francis Ford Coppola said he's making a new gangster movie called Distant Vision? I am. I did not know about that, but I will always be interested in what Francis Ford Coppola does. Imogen says, you have become one of my best, most valued mentors. Thank you. And it's not even one-on-one. No. Thank you for your time and spirit in these sessions. Well, thank you. That makes it worthwhile to do these things, because sometimes I wonder, like, what am I doing here? But if I am helping you people, that is great. How to write a character death on the page in character's death in such a way that it is powerful, but not solely for the bloody violence. So many ways, so many. That's on you. Think about how you can do it. You can do it by mirroring it in some symbol. You can do it by having someone talk about their reaction to it. There are a million ways. Your job is to think about which way you would do it. Hi, Blaine. Okay, so we're closing off questions. No more questions. Can I have a Spanish historic figure just saying English instead of Spanish, not to be extremely historical accurate? Yes, of course, because here's the thing. Suppose you write a historical novel about ancient Rome. Well, you're not going to write it in ancient Roman. You're not going to write it in Latin. You're not going to write it in whatever language they were speaking at the time, because there are actually a whole bunch in ancient Rome. You're going to write it in the language you write in. We're allowed to do that. That is not, you do not have to be historical in the sense that you are from the history. You are writing about the history. Oh, good. I'm so glad. That's lovely. Imogen was just telling me that I had forgotten that we had spoken before. Make it matter. Yes. Meaning the violent death of a character. Burgundy is saying, make it matter. Have it change the story. Have it affect the other characters. Think about a detail that you personally feel powerfully affected by. Seeley Jack says, lots of people say not to describe the appearance of the character introduction. So what do we really need to write in that one sentence to introduce a new character in the script? This is a script question, and I will have to go research it, but I did a live stream session on describing characters, which I will put a link to about 10 minutes after this is done, which will be very shortly. I will go research that, and I will put a link to it in the description here so that you can go find out. Thank you. A link for the like button. Why the old 50s Japanese movies can establish characters that well in just 1 or 2 scenes seems much quicker than to get into the actual conflicts in Hollywood movies. I don't know that I have an answer to that. I don't even know if I think it's true. but the answer is break it down. Like, take a movie that you think doesn't do it well, and then take one of these 1950s Japanese movies and literally watch them and stop at every scene and write down what's happening in that scene. How are they creating this character in this few strokes? How are they doing it? Write down what they do. Maybe it's in the performance, maybe it's in the directing, maybe it's in the writing. Figure it out for yourself, that what you see, because everyone has different opinions on that. Which book by Graham Greene is my favorite? The End of the Affair. I love The End of the Affair. I love This Gun for Hire. I love Brighton Rock. Oh, Brighton Rock is amazing. Anyway, and that's just scratching the surface. Graham Greene is so great. How to find a cool concept to write. I struggled to find an awesome idea to write. This is another one. Sanchez Pablo. I did a whole live stream Q&A about Ask Me Anything about how do you know an idea is good. I will put a link to the description down below. Idea is good. I'm just making a note so I remember to find it and put it in the link. But I got into my basic idea is that there's no such thing as a bad idea. What do you think is a good idea and how will you make it work? That's the key. Have you ever watched New York, New York? Yes, I've watched it 2 or 3 times. I hated it the first time. I saw it in the theater when it first opened. And I was just like, this is a mess. I don't get it. Over the decades, I've now seen it 2 or 3 more times. And I rather admire I think it's a failed experiment in many ways. The basic experiment is Scorsese thought, what if I take a classic old Hollywood romance story, but I do it in my new Hollywood, indie New York style, and what would happen with that clash? And it's a fascinating experiment, and I kind of like it now, but it's not for everybody. The Screenwriting Cult Club assemble. Cults scare me. I don't want to lead one, but I love that you guys love it. I am so glad that I help you. I am so glad. I don't know if I will be back next Wednesday. It's the day before Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if I am cooking. So I will put a notice if I'm not here, and then I'll see you in 2 weeks. But if I don't, I will see you next week. Either way, the key is, as we all know, go write something.